to do a quick review as promised on this mini excavator, and made me a few notes so I don't forget anything to go over to see if I would buy this again if I knew all the things that I know now and having used it for a year. Stay tuned to the end of the video for that answer. So let's start off with the positive on a mini excavator like this. The first thing that comes to mind is the size of it. It's very compact and small, and you can get it into pretty much any backyard. So if you're looking at something that needs to get into a small gate to get into the backyard and do some work, and without having to tear down any fence panels and replacing them, this is definitely an excavator that can do it. It's easy to transport because of the size. I can pull it with any vehicle that can pull about 5,000 pounds, because you have to consider the trailer as well. You won't have any problems pulling this with just a mid-size SUV or smaller SUV. So that's one of the big pluses, is the size of it. Yeah, I think that was the biggest attraction to me, because I needed to do some work except outside of the cabin. So the mini excavator was a good choice for that. One of the biggest attractions to one of these little ones is definitely the price. The price tag, depending on what the attachments are, you can find them anywhere on eBay from, I think you could grab one for $8,000 by now. $8,000, a brand new one. So if you want more attachments, like I've got an auger for fence posts. I also have the jackhammer to break up concrete, and I have 3 different size buckets, one for trenching, the one that I mainly use, and then 2 larger ones. And then I have the one rake. I've used it for pulling out vines and blackberries that we have that are very invasive up here. So on the other property, I've done quite a bit of work with that. So that's a great set of attachments. That'll put you around, I would say, 10K all in. So that's hard to beat for a brand new machine. It comes with a Briggs & Stratton engine, and those things don't break very easy, and that's like your heart of the machine. And then you have your hydraulic pump. If that ever goes out, it's easy to replace. And then you're looking mainly at just steel and hoses that you may have to do some work on. That was the thought on that. So price is definitely a factor. You can get a brand new machine out of the gate. You shouldn't have too many problems with a brand new machine, was the thought process. So that is a big plus on it, is the price tag. And like I said, the attachments, for the price you can get quite a few attachments. If you're going a bigger machine, you're going to pay a lot more, and they usually don't come with all the attachments, or you're going to pay a lot more, because obviously everything is a lot bigger, a lot heavier, a lot more steel. So with the steel prices, you're going to pay that extended price tag. It's very strong for its size. I would almost say it's too strong for its size, if there is such a thing. But it is, as you saw it the other day, we lifted a big tree stump that we just found out there and started yanking it out of the forest. The reason I say it's almost too strong is because I bent the claw. It's not a movable claw. It is a movable claw, but it's not a hydraulic movable claw. So the claw, I have to put it in the position where it is, and yanking sideways like that, I bent the actual claw a bit. It's not a big deal because it still works fine. It's just very surprising that that thick of a steel was bendable by the power of this machine. So it's very strong. Don't get me wrong, this thing lifts stuff and pulls. Its limitations is very little for the size that it is. That already brings me to the end of the list of the positives, which was kind of shocking when I wrote all this stuff down, because I like to look at it in, you know, two columns. What are the pluses and what are the minuses? So let's go into the cons. So on the pro side, we had small size, but I also have it on the con size. Now, don't get me wrong, that's my personal opinion, that the size is a little bit too small. The reason I say that, it's for my use. The property size that we have over here, I'm starting to realize I could have used the next bigger machine. What does that look like? Probably about 5,000 pounds. It's bigger, it's got more power, it's got a bigger blade. Some of the stuff that I'm doing is trying to build a road. It's just taking excessively amount of time going back and forth, and we could have used one step up, which again, you're going to be spending a lot more money. You're not getting in at the price tag that you're getting in here. So that's not a big con, it's just something that I feel like is a little bit of a problem. It is Chinese made, so that is a huge con. With that comes a lot of things. When I say Chinese made, not everything is bad that comes from there, but the engineering, the way that they do things over there is just a bit different than here. Everything is a little bit off. The quality is not as high. Like I said, the claw should not be able to bend by the power of this excavator, because it should be calculated out that I need this thickness of steel to prevent that from happening. So either the steel is not that high of a grade, or the claw is just too thin and should have been made thicker. The only other thing I could think is that it was from a different manufacturer, but then again, at that point, they should have purchased one that is bigger. Some other issues that I've ran into that I've had to fix. The seatbelt, I fixed it now twice. It's one of, you know, seatbelt is your security in the cabin if this thing ever falls or rolls over, to protect you from falling out and having the machine roll over you. That thing, I've had to replace the locking mechanism, or not replace, but take it apart and put it back together and fix it. So there's things that are gonna go wrong. I've had these grease nipples break off. I've had bolts on this come flying out. They don't sit tight. You have to constantly re-tighten them. Even if you make them really tight, they still come loose constantly. Some of the bolts are long, some of them are short. I mean, there's this whole gamut of things that are just kind of off on the machine. Everything works. Everything works to, you know, specifications, like when you're talking about digging and pushing things, but it could definitely be done a lot better. In you know, for the size of it and all that stuff, it just yeah, there's just a lot of things that you'll start noticing. So if you don't like tinkering on things, a Chinese made one may not be your cup of tea, because that brings me to the next point. You're not going to have a warranty. It's a Chinese built machine. We got it from some local dealer or some local guy that's trying to become a dealer for these machines. And at the very beginning, we got the jackhammer, and trying to figure out how to use the jackhammer, I had to email back and forth many times. There's like literally no manual that comes to it. The only manual you're going to get is the Briggs and Stratton engine, you know, manual, and that's telling you how to maintain it. But everything else is kind of like, oh, good luck with it. So how to use a jackhammer. They sent me some video in Mandarin. I'm gonna have to figure out myself how to use it. Don't get me wrong, it's not that complex. There's not too many things you can do, but it does come with a CO2 tank that has to be hooked up to something. It has to have a certain pressure and all these other things. So there's some figuring out to do, and there is no warranty. So if something breaks on this thing, you're gonna have to fix it yourself. Even within the first year. Good luck at getting a hold of anybody and finding the right parts. So if you don't like tinkering with stuff and trying to get a hold of places or getting a hold of people, this is not the thing for you. Stick with something more expensive. Buy it here, buy a dealer. If you have any problems, you can take it in, or they can come out and fix it. So keep that in mind. Some of the issues on it, excuse excuse me, the drawback is this blade is just absolutely small. It is in proportion to the machine, I get it, but it could be twice as tall or and have a little bit of curvature in it. But I know it's not made for that, but that would be great, because I'm just constantly at the limits of what I can push with it because it just tumbles over. The seat in it is the bare minimum seat. I mean, this thing is the most uncomfortable thing you'll ever sit in, but I guess you get what you pay for. And if you look at the cab space, when you see the videos, I mean, you barely have any leg room in these things, which is really horrible. It could have been designed just a little bit better. I've seen some that have both sides open, where your feet have more room, and I'm 5'10", so if you're any taller than 5'10", this is not for you. You're going to be struggling getting your legs in there. You're going to be, yeah, if anything ever happens, it's a trap. You're going to be stuck in there. So keep that in mind. And then I already mentioned the seatbelt and the quality of stuff that has already broken a couple of times. The way it's designed, you're pretty much sitting on top of the engine. The engine is sitting underneath here. A lot of these will come with a small tank. This one has a bigger gas tank. It has a replacement. It also has a blower in here to keep the engine cool, that you have to turn on manually. When you're sitting on top of an engine like that, whatever heat the engine gets, you're going to feel it on your legs and on your behind. So that could have been probably designed a bit, but the only way to do that is to make the excavator bigger. So I don't know how they would do it, but it's definitely a con. That's why I have to stop it at a certain point. I'm just tired of sitting in the heat, and I have to take a break, let the machine cool down a little bit, and then get back to it. Yeah, and maintenance on this thing is complicated because these little rubber thingies right here, you have to take those out, and then you have to undo the bolts in here, and then this thing comes off, and then the amount of space you have in here is very limited. You can take all of these off. They're very heavy. So just to do an oil change to remove this or to do anything like that is time consuming and cumbersome. This could have been easily done with a latch on it or something like that to make it a little bit more maintenance friendly. Again, it's Chinese engineering. They don't care about some of these things that we over here take for granted. And one of the other big cons is safety on these things. They don't have a safety locking mechanism, so when you turn this machine off and you leave your arm up, or the blade up, there is nothing that locks it in place. From what I understand, here in the United States, when you buy a machine that is American made and has gone through the standard, even if you touch the levers, the arm will stay up and the blade will stay up. This thing, if the arm is up, the engine's off, and the main power control is off, and somebody touches the arm, that thing will come down. So keep that in mind. If you have children, especially small children, you always have to put the arm down, put the bucket to the ground, put the blade to the ground, turn off, and then relax the controls, move them one more time to just get every bit of the pressure out of there. That way, nobody can get underneath it accidentally and get crushed by this. This stuff is heavy. It doesn't look heavy, but it is pretty darn heavy, and it has no safety on it. So that is probably one of the biggest cons for people that have kids. We don't have any small kids at this point. If we ever have grandkids, then it becomes a little bit more of an issue. But I am very adamant about putting it down anyway. So I've gotten into the habit of doing it just because for my own safety. I don't ever get underneath the arm. If you ever watch the videos, I always walk around the outside. I have a lot of respect for this heavy steel. I don't like getting injured, so I walk around it, even if if it's just for something small. I do reach into certain things where I don't have a choice, but I'm always very careful at it and make sure that I'm as safe as I can be. But they don't have very much safety on these things. I don't know about the roll bar, how sturdy it is and how well it is calculated out to sustain a rollover down a hill or something like that. I don't want to find out. So That's not something I would like to figure out with this machine, but I hope it is sturdy enough. Overall, it's a good little machine. Now, the magic question, would I buy it again? Um, Probably not. And here's the reason why. Um, if I wasn't working on such heavy things and such bigger projects, this would be fine. But I'm starting to realize the actual limitations of a small machine fairly quickly. If I had a smaller property and smaller things going on, smaller trees and smaller stumps and that kind of stuff, and it wouldn't be an issue. I would definitely go with the little machine again, even taking in consideration the all the adapters or the extra parts that I've got with it. I probably would go with something that is one level up and just have one bucket. That would be fine. I can do without all the other attachments. I am just spending so much more time going back and forth, and in my head, and you'll always do that in your head. You go over, wow, if I would have had the bigger version of this, I'd be done already, like half a week ago or a week ago. So you're always going to do that. But again, this machine is the very entry of things, depending on what you're doing. If you're mainly doing irrigation trenches or laying some pipes or whatever, and doing small paths, and trying to build like a road for a vehicle or something like that, this is more power than you ever need. It can help you lift things. It's so powerful. It's pretty good. I just, for my personal use out here, what is about 95% of the use that we're going to be doing, I would have, if knowing what I know now, I would have gone one size up. But it is what it is. I have it now. I'm happy with it. In that sense, it's better than not having it. But I'm still dreaming of a larger one. So maybe one day I'll get the next size up and part ways with this one. Um, but yeah, there's my opinion. I probably would not uh, get this size again. Has nothing to do with that it's Chinese made. I don't have a problem with maintaining these things and fixing things and tinkering around with things that are a little bit more complicated, or fixing things or repairing them to standard, or adjusting them. I've already made a few adjustments on the device, just to make them more to my liking, and I'm still going to do more of them. So that's not the problem. It's just literally the size of it for out here would be one step up better. So that's my 2 cents. Take it for whatever it is, and make your own decision. Do lots of research where you buy it from. Um, Maybe go look at the machine, see for yourself, drive it around a little bit. That's what I did. Um, but other than that, they're fun, and they can make your life a lot easier. All right. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down below. I'll go through them. I'll answer what I can about these excavators. And until next time, thanks.